Halloween Ends, the 2022 movie explored in detail. Hi, this is Simon Cantlish and welcome to Marvelous Videos. For a franchise that has been around for 44 long years, there comes a moment when you just do not know how it is going to transpire over the course of its runtime. Well, what we are looking at happens to be the 13th installment in the Halloween film franchise, and technically speaking, it is the final chapter of director David Gordon Green's trilogy. Halloween Ends is a classical Halloween movie, as expected. There is relatable trauma, there is modern horror, and also this larger exploration on how trauma can alter and shape destructive cycles. And oh, in case we forgot, let us not disregard the satisfying roundup that this movie has on offer. Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode finally deals with the trauma, and in the boldest fashion, may we add. Stay tuned till the end of this video to witness the final confrontation, and one that is unlike anything that has ever been captured before. Are you ready? Let's do this then. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
He killed my daughter, but tonight, I will kill him. Come and get me.
Halloween Ends, the last stand explored. The opening scene has on display what can categorically be considered as the best pumpkin title sequence, with a generous mix of John Carpenter's Halloween theme. The year is 2019, and it is the infamous Halloween night in Haddonfield, Illinois. Corey Cunningham, a young man, is seen making his way towards the Allen house. He is here to babysit the young Jeremy Allen, whose parents have plans of attending a Halloween party, and in full fashion, may we add. Mrs. Allen, sporting a chic Gatsby look, lets Corey know of a few things about her son before leaving for the social gathering. Jeremy is afraid of the dark. He has a habit of wetting the bed at night, and that he is also sensitive to things that give him bad dreams. She further tells Corey to help himself with whatever he wants in the house. After the Allens leave, Corey is seen watching a horror flick with Jeremy. With him realizing that the movie might have an adverse effect on Jeremy, he attempts to switch off the television, but young Jeremy is adamant about watching it. Corey goes to the kitchen and takes out a chocolate milk container from the fridge. Upon seeing some cake lying on the kitchen slab, he decides to have a piece. As he begins to cut the cake, he is distracted by the sound of something getting broken in the living room. He calls out Jeremy's name but does not get an answer. He leaves the cake behind and goes to investigate. He finds a lamp toppled over, but Jeremy is nowhere in sight. Corey goes back to the kitchen and discovers that the knife he was using earlier to cut the cake has disappeared. Upon hearing the screams of Jeremy coming from somewhere inside the house, he grabs another knife and goes looking for Jeremy. With Corey eventually reaching the attic, the door gets shut from behind, and it soon becomes clear that Jeremy has only been playing a prank on Corey all this while. Corey demands Jeremy to let him out of the attic, but the mischievous young boy is in no mood to do that. In the meantime, the Allens are seen pulling up their car outside. They are back home, oblivious to the current situation. As for Corey, he is seen violently kicking the attic door in an attempt to open it, and his repetitive kicking results in the door getting flung wide open and inadvertently knocking Jeremy, who was standing right outside the attic door, and he goes right down the staircase to his death. While Mr. and Mrs. Allen are seen rushing towards an already dead Jeremy, Corey is seen looking at the horrific scene from above the staircase while clutching onto the knife. Mrs. Allen is heard screaming, "What have you done?" Corey is accused of killing Jeremy afterwards. A few years pass by, and we finally get a good look at Laurie Strode, documenting some kind of memoir where she is seen chronicling all the encounters that she has had so far with Michael Myers. Laurie has left behind her reclusive life, bought a new home in Haddonfield, and is currently putting up with her granddaughter, Allison. Her daughter Karen, as we all know, was slaughtered to death by Michael in the preceding movie. In her memoir, Laurie recalls how Halloween was once a peaceful night until the man in the mask appeared and ravaged her community with his senseless brutality. The amount of suffering that he has caused is beyond measure, and while it is true that it has been 4 years since she last saw the monster, she is certain that someone who is a personification of pure evil cannot vanish away just like that. Speaking of Haddonfield, the town is still bearing the brunt of the repercussions repercussions of Michael Myers' killing spree, so much so that the entire town holds Laurie Strode accountable for Michael's actions. They believe she encouraged Michael to commit things in the first place. As we move ahead with the storyline, Corey is seen currently working at his uncle's mechanic shop come salvage yard. While he is cleared of all charges, there's no denying that he is still looked down upon by the townspeople. There is a certain set of bullies who keep picking on him, and particular incidents with them gets Corey injured in the process. Laurie intervenes in the situation, only to get taunted back. The bullies end up addressing the duo as psycho and freak show. Later, Laurie takes Corey to the doctor's clinic, where his granddaughter works for a fix-up. Post-witnessing the sexist attitude of Allison's boss, Corey asks her to report, but Allison lets him know that she can't because of her approaching possible promotion. With the duo spending more time with each other, sparks fly between them and they begin developing a relationship, despite Corey being initially hesitant about it. Allison eventually asks Corey to attend a party with her, and the latter agrees to do so. In the meantime, Laurie crosses paths with Deputy Frank Hawkins at a supermarket, and her news of buying a home in Haddonfield is met with great admiration. At the Halloween party, Allison is dressed up as Catwoman and Corey as Scarecrow. All goes well until Corey runs into Jeremy's mother at the party, where Mrs. Allen accuses Corey of killing her son and calls him pure evil. Corey ends up having a panic attack and leaves abruptly from there. Allison follows Corey, but the latter states to her that people still look at him like a monster, and therefore he will spare her the heartache. On his way back home, Corey encounters the bullies again. They break his glasses, and a scuffle between him and the bullies end up with him getting thrown off a bridge. The bullies, thinking that Corey has died, flee from the scene with their car, and an unconscious Corey is seen getting dragged inside a sewer underneath the bridge by an undisclosed person. Sometime later, Corey is seen regaining consciousness and is startled to find himself inside the sewer. As he attempts to leave from there, Michael appears in front of him and grabs him by his throat, much to the former's complete shock, but ultimately lets him go. Corey has barely made it outside the sewer when a homeless man, one that has been residing near the sewers, catches hold of him. He has a knife in his hand and is surprised that Michael actually let him go. It is finally revealed that the homeless man had been luring victims inside the sewers for Michael to kill them. In short, it's just another means to keep Michael away from the streets of Haddonfield. In the ensuing struggle between Corey and the homeless man, the former ends up stabbing the latter. In fact, he continues to do so repeatedly until the vagrant bleeds to death. Next, he throws away the knife and runs away from there. Corey visits Allison at her place and asks her to take a walk with him. He admits to her that he killed someone and takes her to the now abandoned Allen house, where he narrates to her the Halloween incident. They eventually make up, and while having dinner together at a diner, Allison's former boyfriend, Officer Doug Mullaney, ends up persecuting the duo. This irks Corey to the extent where he literally leads Doug into the sewers and has Michael kill him. Later that night, Corey goes to Allison's place and they end up sleeping together. As for Laurie, she starts becoming concerned for Corey. The sudden change in his behavior strikes her. Something just doesn't feel right anymore. She confides her thoughts in her friend, Lindsay, who happens to be a fellow survivor just like Laurie. Lindsay currently works as a local bartender, and upon hearing things, introduces Laurie to Mr. Allen. Surprisingly, he seems to share her concerns and laments at the fact that the whole town took his pain and his despair and then made it all about them. Allison eventually gets to know that she did not get the promotion and that a fellow co-worker, Deb, bagged it instead of her. It is soon disclosed that Deb is having an affair with their boss, Dr. Mathis. Corey, upon getting to know about it, dons his scarecrow mask and together with Michael ends up brutally murdering Dr. Mathis and Deb at the doctor's residence. When he meets Allison later, he does not state anything about it. Instead, he tells her that he needs to get away from everyone who knows him. This is followed by a vexatious encounter with Willie the Kid, or in other words, the local radio DJ, who tells Corey and Allison to get the hell out of his property. This has Allison agreeing to leave Haddonfield with Corey. Back home, Corey's overbearing mother, who clearly does not approve of his son's relationship with Allison, is displeased with his behavior and ends up slapping him. This has Corey leaving the house and spending the night at the deserted Allen house. When he wakes up the following morning, he is surprised to find Laurie there, with Laurie stating to Corey that her granddaughter is not equipped for this relationship and that he should stay out of her life. Corey blames her for the entire course of events and tells her that if he can't have Allison, no one will. Soon the day of Halloween arrives and Corey calls up Allison to tell her that they have to leave that night. Then he goes back to the sewers and fights Michael for his mask, telling him that he has something that he needs. Next, he damages the car of the bullies and has them follow him to the salvage yard. Laurie, on the other hand, finds Allison packing and tells her that she is incapable of having a good life with Corey. This angers Allison to the extent where she ends up telling her grandmother that she is obsessed with Michael Myers and that she is responsible for causing the hysteria. Allison further blames Laurie for the death of her parents and friends. The bullies, in the meantime, decide to teach Corey a lesson and demolish his bike, but this only leads Corey to going on a frenzied killing spree, and he violently ends up killing all the bullies inside the salvage yard, giving each of them a painful death. It is also in the ensuing muddle that Corey's uncle gets killed by accident. Corey does not stop at that. He goes back home and stabs his mother to death wearing the Michael Myers mask. After that, he goes to the radio station and attacks the receptionist. He enters the radio station where Willie is hosting a live show. Corey repeatedly slams his head on a spinning record turntable and then severs Willie's tongue. Allison, on the other hand, is seen waiting for Corey at a diner, messaging him, asking him where he is. Back at the Strode house, Laurie is seen attempting to commit suicide, but her actions are nothing but a ruse to tempt Corey into her house. Laurie calls 911 to report a suicide. She takes out her gun. A loud and clear gunshot is heard, which has the hiding Corey coming into the room, only to find the remnants of a pumpkin lying on the ground and Laurie facing a gun towards him. She asks him if he really thought that she would kill herself and shoots him down the stairs. Corey is visibly hurt in the process, but he ends up stabbing himself in the neck in order to make Allison believe that her grandmother did that to him. Witnessing Corey stabbing himself like that, Laurie attempts to pull the knife out of his neck, but that is precisely when Allison arrives at the house. She misinterprets the situation and runs out of the house crying. As she drives out of her neighborhood, Michael appears inside the Strode house to reclaim his mask. As he finds a bloodied Corey lying on the ground, he strangles him to his death, ultimately breaking his neck. This is followed by the ultimate face-off between Laurie and her masked nemesis. The fight becomes intense and the goal remains the same. Both want to kill each other. There comes a moment when Michael almost incapacitates Laurie while trying to crush her neck with his foot, but is eventually unsuccessful in manifesting his desire. It is also around the same time that Allison gets a call from Deputy Frank Hawkins, who informs her that Laurie had early called to report a suicide. Coming back to the situation in the Strode house, Laurie finally manages to pin Michael on her dining table, plunging knives into both his hands. She even has a fridge toppled on him to keep him intact on the table. Laurie is finally seen removing the mask from Michael's face and states to him that he is no boogeyman and that he is just a man who is about to stop breathing in a while. But this provokes Michael enough to free one of his hands and grab Laurie by her throat to strangle her. Allison intervenes in the situation and breaks Michael's arm. Laurie, together with her granddaughter, slit Michael's throat first and then his wrists in order to bleed him out completely. Frank arrives at the residence minutes later and Laurie informs him that Michael is dead. But looking at Laurie, one can clearly make out that she isn't satisfied. She has the body placed and tied on the top of her car and takes it to the salvage yard. Her action starts attracting the rest of the townspeople and everyone is seen following them, including Haddonfield's current county officer, Sheriff Barker. Michael's body is eventually dumped into the industrial shredder in front of everyone. Allison and Laurie are seen to reconcile later. The former, after discovering the crimes of Corey, leaves town. As for Laurie, she eventually finishes the chapter of her memoir and bids goodbye to her boogeyman. While it is true that the mysteries have finally been put to bed, Laurie can't help but ponder the truth that evil doesn't die, it just changes shapes. Halloween ends with Laurie finding love, and no points for guessing in Frank.
I'm gonna take a little walk.
What is it, the boogeyman? I'm scared.
There's nothing to be scared of.
So what do we at Marvelous Videos think of the movie? Here is a film that finally breaks new ground in the series. It is actually nice to see a Halloween flick that does not act like some kind of setup for most of the characters to be murdered brutally. Yes, there are plenty of kills on display, some quite memorable, but the focus is not on that. We have a story that is compelling, acting that is solid, and a movie that delivers exactly what the trailer promises. Mind you, Halloween Ends is quite different, especially when compared to its sequels. Therefore, addressing all fans of the franchise here, you are bound to be a bit taken aback by the structure and style of the movie. In fact, right from the very opening scene, you can easily make out that this is not going to be like any other Halloween movie that you have laid your eyes on. And when you move ahead with the storyline, you actually start wondering if this actually happens to be part of the same trilogy, given the visible differences. The film has Curtis's Laurie Strode back to being at her best, and we feel Rohan Campbell's Corey Cunningham could have been a bit less toned down. Last but not the least, David Gordon Green's Halloween Ends is not perfect, but it tries to tell a story and attempts to bring an end to the saga, and that it does in its individual way. With this, we finally come to the end of our video here. Do hit us with your thoughts in the comments section and let us know if you've seen the movie yet. Also, stay tuned with us for more interesting content on the film franchise. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.